Yo, welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong, I am your host, and I'm super thrilled to be back here once again to have a conversation with you. And it's just you and me today, just hanging out, and we're getting close to the end of the year, and there's been something which I guess I've been thinking about and just playing back in my mind, and I wanted to have that conversation with you. And it really comes down to, I guess, we're at that finish line sprint for the end of the year. You know, we're getting close to the end of the year. At the time of filming this, you know, we've only got about 3 weeks left of the year, and generally this is the time that we start to reflect or plan or even a bit of both, and that's what I want to chat about with you guys today. But at the same time, I want to stitch it together with, I guess, some of my own learnings and some of my own parallels from, I guess, my running journey this year and just life in general, and play that back to you to hopefully give you some better context on how you can go do exactly the same and launch yourself into, I guess, 2022 with some big wins. But this applies whether you're starting from a start of a month, start of a week, start of a year, or however. It doesn't matter. The idea is it gives you some context of maybe how to plan a bit better while using reflecting as a way to gain that momentum or to give you the perspective needed to make this happen. So if you are new here, we are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. We do have the YouTube experience as well, but however you like to listen, we're going to dive straight into this. Let's do it. So as I mentioned, I wanted to kind of set some context before getting into, I guess, talking about reflecting and talking about planning. And the first thing that I kind of want to just lay out there is give you guys a bit of an example from my own life this year. And one goal that I had this year was to run my first ultra marathon, which was 50 kilometers. And naturally, it was a step up from a marathon, which was a step up from a half marathon, from a 10K, from a 5K. You get my point. So it's been a long time coming. It's come, you know, it's taken me 5 years to get to this point. But now to reach the goal and even give myself, I guess, a chance to even attempt it, it required me to put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and a whole bunch of consistency of weeks of training, maintenance, and effort. And there was a plan, obviously, to make that happen across 28 weeks. But there was an action. There was steps in place to enable me to repeat those actions, but also go back and apply some learnings and, you know, continue to I guess, rinse, wash, and repeat kind of style. So after 28 weeks and 1,100 kilometers, you know, I was able to do my 50-kilometer ultra marathon, and I did it. But I think what is really important here is breaking that down. Is 1,100 kilometers over 28 weeks. What does this even work out to be? Well, it works out to be about 10.5 kilometers per run. It averages out to be about 39 kilometers per week. That's about 4 runs a week. We're talking roughly 7 half marathons, not including longer runs than the half marathons. We did about 16,000 meters elevation. But these are all numbers, and there's many more numbers. But the point here is they were all numbers which could be, I guess, broken down into easier consumption, enabling me to take action or to consume in a more easier way to help me take action. And this is where reflecting and planning come in. So when we talk about reflecting, you know, we're at the end of the year, maybe at the end of the month, or however you want to apply it. But in this case, we're talking from a year perspective. When you look back over the year, when you look back over this year, to see how far you've come, you really need to understand, well, what was your baseline? What are you comparing to? Where have you come from? What have you started with? And, you know, this might be a sales number. It might be what an average week looks like for you in terms of, is it a workout? Is it from dollar figures? Is it from getting things done? Is it a rep count? Is it a kilometer distance? Is it a monthly result? Is it a client interaction or how many clients you've won or signed? Is it a number of downloads? Maybe you have a podcast and you're trying to hit a certain download count. But what is it that you can compare to see how far you've come? And if you don't have a baseline, you need to plan for one for 2022. This way you can track and see the growth. But another example of this is, I mean, I love to track everything. And if anyone is following me on my personal journey, you know, I do. I track all my sales in my reselling business. I track all my running. I track my share portfolio. And the share portfolio one is a great example because I've always tracked my shares, but, you know, using an app. But what I wanted to do this year was actually every single day is see the change in that share portfolio. So I tracked the daily results, and it wasn't a total of 365 days, but it's probably going to work out to be about 300 days worth of tracking. But what this does is it gives me a bit of an idea of what to expect. Not saying that this can predict it, but it also gives me some level of confidence. And this year, on average, I made about 0.12% increase per day. Per day. And based on that, it worked out that I've basically earned around $388 every day for the last year. And that adds up and it pays quite well. But when it comes to reflecting, if you know where you've started and you can go back and have a look and see, you can then actually start to understand, well, actually I've come quite a far way. And if you haven't done that, and maybe you're getting to the end of the year and you're feeling like, I don't know what I've achieved, I don't know what I've done, this is why it's so important that when you are going on a journey that you do document. It doesn't have to be for everyone, but for yourself. Whether it's putting it in a journal, whether it's putting it on an Excel sheet or tracking it over time. However, just something so it gives you a baseline and something to show you how far you've progressed. Otherwise, it can be quite difficult to actually look back and really pinpoint or capture and see how far you've come. But I think regardless, if you actually do take the time and go back and just, whether it's via Instagram or whether it's just by, I don't know, you'll have to find some means what's relevant to you and just see what were you doing at the start of the year? What were things that were happening? What were you doing in your job? Who were the people in your life? How much money were you earning? Or were you running? Or were you doing this hobby? How much time were you spending with your family? How much time were you working on your side projects? If you can go back and really put that into perspective back in the first quarter of the year, and then start to look at, well, what are you doing now? And compare those numbers, compare those notes, compare that data, you'll start to be able to reflect. Now, this reflection will obviously reveal one or two things. You've either gone up or you've gone down, or maybe you haven't changed. Regardless, you can leverage that to then go into the new year and plan accordingly. And I'm not here to tell you that you should have achieved X or you should have achieved Y. What I'm here to tell you is that we are capable of achieving whatever we want if we set out a plan. And having that plan enables you to have some momentum, gives you a bit of a North Star and something to keep you on track. And that's where the planning point of this all comes in. If you've reflected on the growth for this year, if you've reflected on the year, you can now leverage this to plan for your next goal or 2022. And it's all about setting a baseline, setting your starting line. Where are you starting from in 2022? Or where are you starting from next week? Or where are you starting from next month? However you want to look at it. Where do you want to go? And you can start to break it down, I guess, on the progress and the effort required. Coming back to the parallel around running, if you want to do 2,000 kilometers in 2022, well, you're going to have to do 5.79 kilometers every day, each day for 365 days. Or you can do X amount per week, or however you want to average it out. But understanding that starts to set, well, what are the expectations you need to be living in or applying or building in terms of boundaries and expectations in your lifestyle moving into 2022. If you want to grow your business revenue from $50,000 to $100,000, well, you need to be doing $274 every day for 365 days in order to reach $100,000. So if you only did $50,000, you basically need to double what you did every day. You get the point, all right? The idea is at the end of the day, it really comes down to action. But if you have an idea of where you want to go and what that looks like, the efforts required, it helps you to take that action and also deliver so much easier. The author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, he really breaks this down very clearly and in a very simple way. And he talks about why 1% every day is going to launch you to new levels. And let me read it out to you. If you can get 1% better each day for 1 year, you'll end up 37 times better by the time you're done. On the contrary, or on the other side, if you get 1% worse each day for 1 year, you'll decline nearly down to zero. What starts as such a small win or a minor setback accumulates into something much, much more. And that's really what I want to harp on today. That's really it. It's short and sweet, but understanding where you've come from, what you've achieved, and breaking down and understanding, well, what are some of those numbers? What have you even been able to do? And sometimes you've set out on a goal and it hasn't worked out, but you've ventured into another area. Going back and just breaking down, well, what have you actually done? And I think this is really important because we get so fixated on do, and we haven't gone back and seen, well, what have I even done? And understanding it and breaking it down. And this will help you also enable you to maybe fix some lessons, fix some issues by reflecting on maybe some of the lessons learned or some of the issues that you've had and how can you avoid that or change that going into the new year. It's not about I'm wanting you to be able to 10x or 100x what you want to do. It's about getting that 1% per day. It's about getting those small wins over a long period of time consistently. Because if you can do that, well, it accumulates, and that's where you're going to see the growth. And I want to encourage you, if maybe you're struggling to understand this, maybe you're struggling to really comprehend, well, I don't know what I've achieved, or I don't know how to break it down. Well, let's have a conversation. You can hit me up on Instagram at Further Your Lifestyle, or you can hit us up on Twitter, which is at Further Your Life, or drop me an email at hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com. Jump on over to one of those socials and let's have the conversation. If you are on the YouTube experience, you can also drop a comment below and we can have a chat there as well. Because at the end of the day, sometimes this can be a little overwhelming. It can be a little bit too much, and sometimes you just need someone to help give you that perspective, and perspective is everything. I've spoken about that before, and I don't want you to go into 2022 thinking everything's just going to be bigger and better because it's a new year. It can be, but it also might not be. And it really comes down to you, your action, and what you're willing to do about it. So, really do appreciate you being here. I think this is an important conversation to have, and not just on a yearly basis, but on a regular basis, reflecting monthly. I like to do this probably on a regular basis. Yeah, every month I do break down certain numbers, but I'm tracking this all the time, so I'm seeing it all the time. And it's not about trying to overwhelm yourself with just information and data, but more so just making sure you've got information there which is telling you a story and keeping you on the path of where you want to go. So, as I said, really appreciate you being here. I hope you've taken something from this. Continue the conversation, reach out however you like. Otherwise, you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.